Good morning, everyone. We are going to start with our programming topics. Now, see, we'll go with the basics first. Like here, whenever you need to write down any distribution, we have four things that we take into consideration. One is taking a sample out of a particular distribution, random sample, finding probability density function or probability of discrete, finding cumulative distribution function, and finding an quartile. That means nothing but finding the value of x for a particular value of probability. So for that, our prefixes are for sample r, for PDF we have d, for CDF we have p, and for quantile we have q. So if you are trying to figure out how to find the sample of s, so you will write r, then the name of the distribution, then you have sample size, and then parameters of the distribution. That works the same way for all. Okay, so for binomial we have r binom, for negative binomial n binom, you can see Rn binom. Hypergeometric, we have Poisson distribution, we have uniform, we have gamma distribution, exponential, chi-square, beta, normal, log normal, t distribution, and f distribution. Now the only difference that from what we study is that for normal distribution and for log normal distribution, the parameter are sigma rather than sigma square. You have to just take care of that the parameter are going to be sigma and instead of sigma square. Okay, you can see for finding PDF, either it be for discrete it will give you probability at a single point. For continuous, it is going to just give you the probability density function substituted by the value of x. Okay, so for whatever value you are trying to find, you'll just substitute first, then the parameter, and prefix is d. Okay, for probability we'll be using CDF and then again x. For quantile, you are trying to figure out for what value of x will you get if for a probability p. Okay, less than equal to, that means CDF value you want here. Okay, so you have probability p here. Okay, so this is how we use distributions to find these values, and we'll talk about these stuff later on. Okay, then the important things, correlation is very important. We have three types of correlation. We have Kendall, Spearman's, and rank correlation. The syntax for correlation, or the formula for correlation, is going to be COR. For hypothesis testing of correlation, you have COR.test. We have two variables x and y. They should be of the same length. Okay, we will make a vector out of it and we will write here x comma y, and then you specify the method. We have Pearson, we have Spearman, and we have Kendall. Okay, now one thing that I usually do is, whenever in the examination I get confused whether which particular spelling has to be used or something, just use the help. Okay, so in help, let's say you don't remember the spelling of Kendall, or you do not remember whether we have to write Pearson's, or whether we have to write Pearson, whether we have to use capital P, whether you have to use small p. Okay, so for that, all you have to do is go to COR. Okay, in this help, okay, no, not here, here COR, and you can see that it gives you the option of what you are searching for. So I am searching for COR. So here we have correlation, variance and covariances. Okay, so they have given us three different things. We are definitely looking for correlation only. We have XY, use, everything. Method, you can see Pearson, Kendall and Spearman. Now you have the spelling here as well. Okay, so I use help a lot to figure out the spellings, to figure out sometimes what kind of arguments we are going to use. Okay, then we have multivariate correlation analysis. If you have multivariate data, okay, that means if you have more than two variables that are related to each other, then all you have to do is use plot. Now see, plot is one of the functions that gives you the best possible interpretation of a plot of your data. So for multivariate, if you just write plot, it will give you multivariate distribution data, correlation, you know, this. Okay, plot. And just by looking at it, 1 versus 2, you have more or less a positive relationship, but 1 versus 3, you have a very good positive relationship. 1 versus 4, you have also very good positive relationship. Okay, similarly you can check 2 versus 3, not a very good relationship. 2 versus 4, again not a very good relationship. 3 versus 4, good positive relationship. So just by looking at these graphs, you can talk about what kind of relationship you have for a particular data. Okay, then if you want to find the actual correlationship, you have again COR. Now instead of XY, you have to put the data here. Okay, the whatever name you have given to the data, and then method Pearson's. Now by default method is Pearson, so if you do not write method Pearson, that would also work. Okay, but because by default it will take Pearson. Now here you can see that market 2 versus market 1, we have 0.65 as our R, but market 3 market 1 is 0.95, market 4 versus market 1, we have 0.97. So you can talk about relationship between different markets just by looking at these correlation table. So when we have multivariate data, we can use correlation COR to find correlation again. Okay, so correlation is important, especially when we have linear regression or we have multivariate data. Okay, again estimation, we'll talk about it later. Let's talk about the other important thing, that is confidence interval and hypothesis testing. Okay, so we have basically 4 major topics that you should concentrate on. First would be correlation, second would be confidence interval and hypothesis testing, third would be linear regression or multilinear regression, and fourth is going to be your GLM. These are the 4 topics that you should concentrate on the most, because about 70% of your paper would come from these chapters. Okay. Now confidence interval and hypothesis testing. Now one of the good thing is you don't have to remember different formulas for confidence interval and hypothesis testing if they have given us data as X and Y. Okay, or whatever as a vector. If data is given, the whole data is given, then you can directly use these functions. Okay, now first of all, there is no Z test. We do not have the assumption that we would know the variance. Okay, there are many packages that do allow you to make a Z test, but we do not use extra packages in our examination, so therefore the packages that are available to us do not have z-test with them. Okay, so that is why our assumption is always going to be that we do not know the population variance. Okay, so therefore we'll start with t-test. T-test, the function is t.test. Then we specify either x if we have only single variable, or we will specify x and y if we have two variables. Okay, write them as vectors. Then alternative is important. Alternative, whether your test is single sided, double sided, so that is our alternative. Okay, just for the sake of figuring out whether we are testing for greater than or less than. Okay, I'll just show you. Let's assume I have an x vector. Now I always use equal to, you can use arrow as well, I'm not going into that. Okay, so let's say vector. I'll take an example, okay, from a particular question or something. Now let's say this is the question. They are saying actuaries in an insurance company have the data which have been collected separately in two different samples. Okay, this is two sample t-test. Before that, I'll just use any data. Let's assume this is the data. Okay, I'm not going for the question, I'm just going for the data. And let's paste that. Now this is our data. 30 values. You can find x bar, you can find sample variance of our x bar. All you have to do is mean of y. This is going to be our x bar. Then for variance you have, I think, VR of y. Let's, if not, standard deviation is also the one, standard deviation of y. These are the basics that you can directly find. Okay, then if you want to do t-test, okay, so let's assume that we are trying to figure out that whether our mean is going to be 6 or not. Okay, so we'll say t.test, and then in bracket, first of all we will have our data y. Then we have to figure out whether we are talking about single sided or double sided. So let's assume our alternative, I'll just write here, anything you write after hashtag is nothing but comment. So I'll say h0. h0 is that our mu is equal to 6, and my alternative, let's say h1 is not equal to 6, not equal to mu is not equal to 6. So for this, our alternative is going to be double-sided. So as soon as you start writing, you will get an option, options of whatever you are trying to figure out, and if you want to use that option, press tab. So alternative will be equal to, now see, again, whenever you want to figure out whether you have written it correctly or not, you can go for any test, t dot test. Okay. You can see here you have 2 dot sided, less or greater. These are the 3 options that you can give in alternative. Okay, or you can write actually the initial values as well. So I'll just write but 2 dot sided. Okay, this is going to be our alternative. Other than that, you can specify for what value are you checking. Mu is equal to 6, that is what we are checking for. If you do not specify that, it will assume that you are checking for mu is equal to 0, that is the default value. So I'll specify comma mu is equals to 6. Then whether the data is paired or not, but that is only for 2 sample t-test. This is not 2 samples, so we do not have to write paired or not. We do not have to write equal variance or not. Okay, but if you are trying to figure out confidence interval, then we specify confidence level as well. So let's assume that we are trying to find confidence interval as well. Let's say 90% confidence interval. So conf dot level, or you can just write conf as well, conf, and you can see you have conf dot level. I'll press tab and I'll say 90%, so therefore 0.9. Okay, so these are the things that we take into account whenever we are using t-test. So control enter, and this is my t-test. Okay. Now I should store this test. I will store it. I will say this is nothing but test 1. I'm storing it in test 1. Control enter. The values have been stored in test 1 now. This is the answer. You can see 1 sample t-test. T value is given to us. Degree of freedom is here. P value is small, right? 0.004096. So basically 0.4%. So most likely we are getting that our H naught is what do we say, is rejected. Okay, because p value is small. It's about 0.4%. So alternative hypothesis is that true mean is not equal to 6, because we have taken 2-sided as our alternative. Okay. Then you can see the confidence interval here. This is the confidence interval, and you can see that our 6 is outside our confidence interval, right? So clearly mu is not equal to 6. Okay. Now if I want to check for less than, mu less than 6. So here, instead of 2-sided, I will have less, okay, and I will say T2, test 2. Everything else I'll keep it same. Control enter. This is our test 2. You can see that our statistic is same, our degree of freedom is same, p value is different because we are checking p value separately, differently. You can see the confidence interval is different because we have taken rejection of alpha on one side completely. Okay. Alternative is true mean is less than 6. Okay. Clearly again p value is very small. Okay, so we are rejecting our H naught and we are saying most likely true value is mu is less than 6. If you want to check for greater than, all you have to do is write here greater, select and run. You can see here now our p value is 99.8. so we have a very high chance, or we are very much confident that our mu is less than equal to 6. It is not greater than 6. We are accepting our hypothesis is mu is equal to 6 or less than 6. You can see the confidence interval. Now whenever you have done your test and you have to, let's say, figure out or write down what is, let's say, test statistic, what is p value, what is confidence interval. If you want to write these values, what we do is, let's say I want test statistics of test 1, p value of test 1 and confidence interval of test 1. So I'll say test 1 and put $sign, and you would see that these are the different values that you can get. I want statistic, so I will select statistic. If I press Ctrl Enter, you would see that it gives me the test statistic here. This is the test statistic. Okay, so whenever writing, what I do is, because we want to then copy paste it in, I don't think in Indian examination we'll need to copy paste. You all gave the, what do we say, the mock test. How do we finally answer? Do we copy paste it in Word? We do need to copy paste. Okay, so we need to finally copy paste it in Word. So what I do is, I make the whole question here. Okay, as I would write it in examination in the Word file, I make the whole question here. Whatever is not the code, you will have to write it in a hashtag. Answers written in hashtag. So I'll make question like this. Okay, so let's say the question started here. I'll say hashtag question, let's say 1. Okay, and this is the data. Then we are testing, let's say hashtag, let's say first part is hypothesis testing. We have to specify the test, so this is how we are specifying test statistic. Okay, let's assume they asked us to find test statistic and the p value. Okay, so then test whichever 1, 2 or 3 you want p value for. So let's assume we are talking about test 1. Okay, dollar p value, you can see, press tab. Okay, I should run it, Control Enter. This is our p value. Copy it, put hashtag value, then whatever conclusion they might have asked, so we'll definitely write our conclusion. Now let's assume this was all for test 1, so I will write test 1, and here we had both side, or you can actually skip alternative. Okay, when we, by default it is going to be both sided, double sided or two sided, whatever you want to call it. So you can skip writing it. Okay, and let's say we also needed to show the confidence interval. Okay, so I'll say test $1. Now here we have confidence interval. It's a confidence interval, and it also says it is 90% confidence interval. Okay, so let's say I want to write the conclusion then. So I'll say hashtag, okay, p value, okay, is less than 4%. So I'll say less than 0.4%. okay, it's 0.4% rather, so it's less than 0.5%. that's the nearest that I can think of. So I'll say even at 0.5% level we have sufficient evidence to reject H0. And then we should always write what does that mean for the question, however the question said, whatever we were trying to find. Okay, so this is how I would write the whole question in R and then copy paste when it is completed. Similarly, let's do 2 sample t-test. In 2 sample t-test, this is the sample. Let's write down that in R. I'll just copy this so that I have something here. After every question has been copy pasted, just clear everything, so that you start with there is no conflict of especially the things written in global environment or whatever the variables that you have used. There should not be any conflict in that. Okay, so this is for my reference. I can directly say x is equals to c bracket although nowadays they give us in question such values that you can either copy directly, or what they do is they give you directly R data. Yes, you should clear global environment after every question. What happens is, let's say I defined y previously, and while writing this question I forgot to that do control enter, and that is why I have y from the previous question, and I keep solving my question and then I get wrong answers, right? So it is always advisable that you clear global environment after every question. Okay, so that we don't make mistakes, because I do that a lot. Many times I just press enter rather than control enter, and if there is data, then what happens is it is not taken into account. Okay, so this is our x and y. Now if you are performing 2 sample t-test, now let's do it exactly same as the question says, so that I will show you how would I write the question. So it's a 4th question, so I would say this is question 4. Okay. So then use the data, then they are asking enter the data into R. Then they are asking perform an F test at a 5% significant level to compare the population variance. You should state your conclusion clearly. Okay, so first we have to perform an F test. Say first part, and first we'll have to write our hypothesis. Always hypothesis needs to be written when you're performing a test. So our H naught is that sigma square 1, or you can say variance of 1. Instead of writing sigma square 1, write variance of x is equal to variance of y. Okay, you can put brackets as well. However you want to write it, you just have to convey the message correctly. That's it. And then H1 we can clear. What are you're saying? We can clear them using RM, because it might happen at the last moment that your Word file is not saved or something, so you can take the data back. Now see, if you feel like your Word file would not have been saved or something, so instead of remove or anything, see, all you need is whatever is written here, correct? So just create another script. Okay, so keep the previous script here, like this question 4 will be written, everything would be written here. So all you will have to do is, if you want to have all the data and everything again, you will have to just copy and paste, right? So keep the script as it is and create new script for the new question, and then clear the data for that. Okay, so that is a good point. What happens if your Word file does not save? First of all, always remember, I'll just open the Word file, just give me one. Whenever you are opening, save the file first, and other than that, in your options, check whether auto save is possible is on or not. So in this save in this format, see, save auto recover information every 5 minutes. You can change that for the examination purposes. Do it for 1 minute. Okay, do it for 1 minute, so that you don't make that mistake that it did not save. So every 1 minute it will save your file. So for now, for me, 5 minutes is good enough. See, keep the last autosave version if I close without saving. So this is also important. So just make sure that in your Word these options are selected. Okay. So you're saying it might decrease the speed and may lead to system hang. So is it advisable? See, especially if your Word file is not very long, that is not going to be the case here, right? We are just solving a few questions. It does not take a lot of time to save those kind of files. Okay, it's hardly few KBs. right? It's like about 70 to 300 KB to 400 KB. That would be the maximum size of your Word file. Okay, so it's okay, just keep on saving. So see, it may lead to maybe hanging for a few seconds when it is saving. Okay, it will take hardly 1 or 2 seconds to save that file, and it may hang for that 1 or 2 seconds, but that too not every single time. But it is better than losing your whole answer sheet, right? So you can keep, instead of 1 minute, keep it 5 minutes. That works too. Okay, it's a good time gap, 5 minutes, and it will not very frequently save the file, so it's good enough. Okay, chalo, let's get back to this question. Okay, alternative, I'll just not equal to. Okay, then our test for equal variance is VAR test. Okay, so F test, the function for it is var.test. Now here, what are the arguments? First of all, this is F test, so definitely we will be testing for two variables, so x and y are important. Then ratio, for what ratio are we testing? Now there has never been a question where they will say test whether sigma 1 square by sigma 2 square is half or 2 or 3 or 100 or whatever. So it's all, the ratio is always 1, so you do not need to specify. But that does not mean that there can never be such a question. See, the F test we use exclusively for testing whether our variances are equal. But they may ask, find whether first variance is twice that of our second variance. So then your ratio is going to be 2. Then alternative, again alternative that we have is two-sided, because we are always testing whether they are equal or whether they are not equal. But we can have less than and greater than depending on the question. Never assume that they will never ask such a question. Okay, so anyways, that we know. Confidence interval by default 0.95, but if you are looking for confidence interval, then you will change this confidence interval, confidence level. So for F test, I will use F test is equal to, and we have var dot test, and all we have to do is give the variables x and y, so x comma y. Okay, other things we do not need to mention because by default they are the correct values. So I'll say control enter, and I will just see, I always see what this data is saying. Okay, so here we have our F value, we have numerator degree of freedom, denominator degree of freedom, we have p value, and we have our alternative hypothesis, true ratio of the variance is not equal to 1, confidence interval, and we have our ratio of variances. Okay, so we would need a few values. We would need test statistic, we would need p value. These are the two values that are important whenever in a question. Okay, so here they have not mentioned what we have to write, but we have to show our test statistic and value. We do not have to show this whole test, so therefore I'll directly use this. I'll say dollar statistic and I get this statistic. Okay, then for p value, This is our p-value. Okay, and then we'll write the conclusion. We wanted to test at 5% level, so we'll say at 5% level, clearly it is greater than 5, so we have insufficient evidence. To reject H0. So our conclusion, the assumption of equal variance is valid, or is true, or is valid, however you want to write. Okay. Then second part, okay, this was second part. Then the third part is perform a suitable t-test for the null hypothesis of the two population mean are equal at 5% significance level. So this is our third part. This was our second part. We have A, B and C. So first we will do A. Mu x is equals to mu y. Okay. This is what we are testing, right? Equal. The two population means are equal. So for our t-test, we'll have t-dot test. So we'll say t-test is equals to t-dot test. We will have first our variables, that would be x and y. Then we have alternative. Now because this is again double-sided, I do not need to specify the alternative, but we need to specify whether the data is paired. By default that paired data is false, so we can leave that as well, but it's a good habit to always specify paired, and we would write that it is false. So for false, I'll just use capital F, paired false. Then we have to specify whether we are assuming equal variance or not. So for that we'll have vr dot, and you can see vr dot equal comes up, and for that I will say true, that equal variance is true. Okay. And later on we'll also require confidence interval, right? In the question they are asking us two-sided 95% confidence interval. So for that, confidence interval 0.95 is the default, so you can leave it or you can specify also, does not matter. So say control enter, t-test. I'll specify the statistic. First I will check, just press control enter, and here you can see two sample t-test. This is our statistic, degree of freedom, p-value. Okay, alternative is mean equal not equal to 0. We have confidence interval, and sample mean. So it worked perfectly. So I'll say t-test dollar statistic, then I'll have t-test dollar p-value, then you'll write down your conclusion. So they are asking us to check at 5%, so at 5% level we have insufficient evidence to check H naught. So therefore our conclusion is that the means are equal. This conclusion should always be written as written in the question. So they asked two population means are equal, so write it as two population means are equal. Okay. Then for the B part, we want two-sided 95% confidence interval for the difference of means of population. That is what we are getting here. So t-test dollar confidence interval comment on your answer in part 3a and 3b. Okay, so you want to comment on both of them. So you will say by testing hypothesis 5% level we can say that, or you can say p-value is 43.65%, therefore we are confident that mu's are equal, okay, at a very high degree because 43. Okay, and just by looking at the confidence interval we can tell that mu's are equal because mu1 minus mu x minus mu y is equals to 0 comes in between this confidence interval, or you can say 0 is included in the confidence interval. Therefore we can conclude that at 5% level we are confident that x and y have equal variance or equal means, something like this. So you have to talk about both of them and why. Okay, first would be p-value and the second would be because 0 lies between them. Okay, that would be your conclusion here. Okay. So this is how you would write an answer. Okay, then copy it and paste it in Word as it is. And again, whenever you're starting a new question, insert another R script, clear global environment, clear console, and then start your question. Okay. So by chance, if your Word file get closed, corrupted or whatever, if you want to write it again, you have the whole question here. Okay, you can just copy paste, and if you still want to check, let's say that there was a graph or something that you want again, so just run everything, select everything, press Ctrl Enter, and you have now all of the things here. And if you had some graph, the graph will pop up here, right? You can do this also, that you just write all your answers as scripts first, and then at the end of at the end when 5 minutes are left, then just copy paste all the questions from here. But in that, always remember, you cannot copy paste graph here, right? In your R script you cannot copy paste graph. We cannot paste graph in the script. So for that you should keep more time. You should remember which question had graphs, which question did not have graphs and stuff. Okay. So that is why I prefer copy pasting one question at a time, because let's say if I had to find a graph here, I will remember that while I am solving this question. Okay, and also there will not be a pressure that in the end I have to copy paste so many questions, or did I copy paste it correctly or not. So as soon as one question is over, copy paste that question. Okay, copy paste any graph that you may have. Okay, so let's assume that in this question we had to plot let's say scatter plot diagram. This is not a linear regression question, but let's assume that we had to have a linear scatter plot diagram. First of all, just by looking at the data, what happens is the best plot for that can be plotted by just plot. Okay, so it's intelligent enough to understand what kind of plot would be the best for representing that data. So as soon as I say plot, if I press Ctrl Enter, I will always get a scatter plot diagram. Okay, this is our scatter plot diagram. Clearly this is not a question of linear regression, therefore the scatter plot shows us that there is no relationship between x and y. Okay, but I just wanted to show how you can copy paste this graph. One would be just export, save image. Okay, but remember, whatever size you have here, okay, so whatever size you have here, that is going to be how your image will look like. So if you want a bigger image because maybe the data is too close to each other, just increase this area, and this is the image that would be saved. Okay, so first of all, make sure that you have one folder created for keeping all your files in it. Okay, so if let's say so if let's say that you want to keep your data file, your R file, your Word file, everything in one place, in let's say you will make a folder in desktop and save everything there. Okay, second thing is you can directly copy and paste in Word. Okay, so I'll just open Word again. I closed it. Okay, so you can copy and paste in Word. In export, go to copy to clipboard. Okay, so it shows you how you will have to copy. Don't change anything here, just press copy plot. Okay, and in Word, all you have to do is right click. I think right click is not working. They have made sure that you don't right click. Okay, so one thing would be go to insert. No, insert and paste. No, I think one would be Control V. Just use Control V. Okay, this is how you will get your plot. You can see here. Okay, because most likely I think right click was not working in the mock tests, right? So this is an easy way to get plot by directly going to copy to save to clipboard. But sometimes what happens is it does not give you a very good size, or it does not give you what do we say correct design or something. It may happen. So we have two options. Remember, one would be that, the other would be export, save the file somewhere and then import it in your Word or copy paste it in Word afterwards. Okay. Okay, so we have our t-test, f-test, we have binomial single sample test in which x is just going to be one single number of successes. Okay, then we say n, how many number of trials we had. Okay, and then p we have to specify for what p are we checking. Are we checking whether our p is going to be 0.5, 0.7, 0.9, whatever the question might be. Okay, by default it is 0.5. It is checking whether p is 0.5. Alternative again, by default it is two-sided, confidence interval 0.95. So this is how we get binomial. Okay, so in binomial you will have just one value, that would be nothing but number of successes. Then we have two sample, then we have prop.test. Okay, so for that x is a vector of counts of successes, so you will specify x1 and x2, and n will also be a vector of count of trials. Okay, so that would be nothing but n1 and n2. Then p is always null because we are always checking whether p is equal or whether p is not. Okay, but you can definitely specify a difference. If you are checking for that your proportion p1 minus p2 is, let's say, 0.15, so you will specify p is equals to 0.15. That would be your difference between proportions. Okay, an alternative and whatever. Correct, this is, I think, continuity correction. If you want to use continuity correction or not, we never use continuity correction, so keep correct false. By default it is true. Okay, so whenever we are testing to binomial population, we do not use continuity correction. Okay. Similarly, we will have Poisson test. Okay. X is nothing but the number of events, whatever they have given us value. T is nothing but the time base, so this is sort of a Poisson process. You have to take care whether what kind of time are we counting, like x is in let's say per hour basis, and they are asking us to find it in 3 hours. What happens in 3 hours? So therefore t will be 3. Then r is nothing but our lambda, hypothesized rate of or rate ratio. It's just either single, if we are talking about single Poisson test, then it is lambda. If it is double, 2 Poisson, it will be rate ratio, so lambda 1 by lambda 2 most likely. Anyways, we do not get these questions. This is just something they may ask, so I am showing you Poisson test. Okay, then errors. I've never been able to find again such questions where we would use this power.t.test, but this is again a very complicated test. Let's not go into that. We do not have examples for this as well. It takes a lot of different data and it gives you different values, so we'll not go into this. Okay, so these are not given in our book. This is something that I felt like may be important, so that is why I have included in these whatever tests. And we have chi-square test. This chi-square test is to check this goodness of fit test. Okay, so this chi-square test checks goodness of fit test. Okay, in which p is nothing but a vector of probabilities of the same length of x, and error is given if any entries of P is negative. Now see, in our goodness of fit test, we calculate expected number of whatever frequencies, right? Here we do not have expected frequencies, we put a probability of expected probabilities. So this x is going to be nothing but frequencies, okay. But instead of frequencies, observed frequencies, what we have to do is we have to make a vector of all the samples rather than us having I'll just show you an example. Okay, give me 1 minute. Again, these questions have never been asked, but from our paper A I have made a few questions. So here we have, it is believed that the distribution of number of claims which arises on an insurance policy of a certain class is that is why I am taking an example to explain, right? So a random sample of 1000 policies is taken from all the policies in this class which have been in force throughout the past year. The table below gives the number of claims per policy in the sample. So we have nothing but the values observed, and we have frequencies. Okay, so as I said, we do not need frequencies, k and frequencies, we need the actual sample. So that means we would need 0 310 times, 1 365 times, 2 202 times, 3 88 times. We'll need such a sample. First of all, we'll have to make such a sample. Okay, so for that I'll just take this. Okay, I'll just make okay, see, we have 0 to 8 or more, but for 8 we had 0 frequency, so I'll take only x. So I'll say k is my variable that is a sequence from 0 to 7. So I'll say 0 is to 7. Okay, then I need frequencies f, that are these values: 310, 365, 202, 310. These are the frequencies. Okay, now I'll just remove this. This is the data. Now if I want to make the sample out of it, that means I want 0 310 times, I want 1 365 times, and so on. So for that, what I will do is I will I will make a vector by repeating these values these many times. Okay, so the best way would be using a for loop. So for, I would say I would say 1 to 8, because I have 8 values. I will say for each value, first value of k, okay, I want to repeat it first value of f times. So I'll say make a vector. So for that, let's assume I am saying x is my vector. So x is equals to, first of all, I will have to define x. So I'll say x is equals to null. Okay, defined x. So x is equals to, I will say old x, comma, in the new value I want to take what we will say repeat. So rep, repeat function, and repeat ith value of k. How many times do we want to repeat? We want to repeat ith value of f times. If I run this, so you can see I have 1000 values of x now. Okay. And you can see 0 0 0 0, these values have been repeated, and in total 1000 times. That is what our sample is. So most likely they'll give you a sample. If not, this is how you'll create your sample. So I've now created my sample x for testing. Okay. I'll explain again. I wanted this value this many times. 1 these many times, 2 these many times, 3 these many times. So I said repeat the ith value of k these many times. Repeat function, repeat this value these many times. Okay. So this becomes nothing but a vector. Join it to the previously created vector, so that when I is 1, it would say k1, first value of k is 0. Repeat it f1 times, that is 310 times. Then go back, take I is equals to 2. That second value k2 is going to be nothing but 1, and f2 is going to be 365. Then go back, take I3, k3 is going to be 2, and f3 is going to be 202, and so on. So this is how you will create the sample. What is the use of vector x? That is what we are going to use in the test. Here a numeric vector or a matrix, x and y both can be factors. So here chi-square test x, this is what we want. I think so. Let's see. I may be wrong. Let's see. Most likely that is what we are using. Okay. Okay. So for data, simulate maximum likelihood estimate. You can simulate maximum likelihood estimate. We'll do that later on. Okay, but I'll show you right now. First of all, I have taken an estimate for I in 1 to 1000. Our sample of x. Okay, sample data. I think I have named it as data. Yes, instead of x, named it as data. So we want a sample from that value. In this case, I have written x. Okay, and we want replace true. So that sample could be of any size. Most likely it will take sample of 1000 values, because the original data is of 1000 values. Okay, and we know that estimate of lambda, always you will have to take into account the MME. Okay, or you should know the MLE of Poisson distribution is nothing but our x bar. So that is why we have taken mean of that sample. Okay, instead of showing, I'll just show you here. If I want to estimate a value from this, so for that what we'll do is we'll say we'll need a loop. So for I in 1 to 1000. So let's say we are doing 1000 iterations for simulation. Okay, First of all, I'll need a random sample. So for random sample, I need a random sample out of this sample already given to us, that is X. So I'll say, let's assume a random sample R will be equal to sample coming from X, and I want replace true. Replace true signifies that I can replace the value before selecting the next value. Okay. So I'll take this R and I will make mean of those values. So let's assume that I would need let's say Z will be equal to this. Assume that it is going to be a vector. So I'll say Zi, ith value of Z will be nothing but mean of R, so that I save all the means in one place. Okay, so first I'll have to define R and define Z before I use it inside. So R is equals to null and Z is equals to null. Okay. So it is going to take the mean of all of those samples and store it in a vector called Z. Okay. I'll press Ctrl Enter, and then I will say my estimate must be equal to nothing but average of Z. So I'll say mean Z. So my estimate is 1.18601. So I have taken 1000 similar samples as the sample we are getting here, and then I have taken mean of each one of them, because lambda is nothing but mean of our sample X bar. So therefore I have taken mean of each value, stored it in one particular place, so that I can take mean of that value. So average of 1000 such sample of averages would give me a good estimate. So it is 1.18601. Okay. So you can see 1.18601 seems to be close enough to whatever I did here as well. Okay. So that is going to be nothing but our estimated value. Next, they are asking us perform an appropriate statistical test to investigate the assumption that the number of claims arising from this particular class of policies follow Poisson distribution. So we want to check whether it is following a Poisson distribution or not. So we need chi-square test. Okay. So for chi-square test, we will have to make probabilities, expected value probabilities. Okay. So for that, probabilities would be, first of all, the variables are 0 to 7 plus. Okay, so probability of Poisson distribution does not stop at 7, it goes on forever. So 7 and more than 7 we have taken here as 7 plus. So first of all, I need to find probability of individual values from 0 to 6. For that, I'll say probability is, let's say, in P. I'm storing it in P. Okay. Poisson distribution for all of these values. So I need probability, that would be D Poisson. Okay. And in bracket I will put directly K here. That is the value I want. Okay. And my lambda is going to be estimated value, EST. D Poisson, finding probability at any single point. This is how we calculate probability, D Poisson. D says probability at a single point, then Poisson for Poisson distribution. then we specify for what value we need to find the probability, and then the parameter. So control enter, and I will get the probabilities you can see here. Okay, I'll show you the probability. These are the probabilities. Now this is probability x is equals to 0, x is equals to 1, x is equals to 2, and so on. And this value is probability x is equal to 7. That we did not want. We wanted x is equals to what do we say? We wanted x is equals to greater than, equal to or greater than 7. That is what we wanted here. We did not want x is equals to 7 in the last value. So I would replace my last value. So p of 8. So 8th value must be equal to 1 minus addition of my 7 values. Addition of 7 values, you can write it in many different ways. I'll say sum of p. If I say sum of p, it is going to add up all values of p, but I want it to leave this one value. Okay, so I'll say sum of p, and put bracket here, and then I'll remove the last value, that is going to be nothing but p8 from this sum of p. So that would be sum of these 7 values, okay, that I have subtracted from 1, that gives me greater or equal to 7, that I will put in my 8th place. Okay, so let's see what our p8 is now, or let's see what our p is going to be now. So you can see other values have not been changed except for the last value, it is slightly changed. Now you can check whether the addition of all probabilities is equal to 1 or not. So if I say sum p, it should be nearly 1. We are getting exact 1 rather, not even nearly 1. Okay, so we want probability, sum of all probabilities to be equal to 1. Only then you will call it as a distribution, right? So this way you are going to get nothing but probability of Poisson distribution for our estimate coming from our sample. Okay. Now the problem here is you can find expected value as well. Okay, because we check whether our expected value because we want to check whether it is less than 5 or not. We do not want our expected value to be less than 5. Okay, so I'll say my expected values E, I'll say would be nothing but the total. We have 1000 values, so I'll say 1000 into probabilities. So control enter, and I will check E, and you can see that last two values are less than 5. If last two values are less than 5, we need to combine it with the previous value. Okay, so we do not need last two values. Now again, we are not going to use E, we are going to use P. So we'll have to combine them in P, not in E. Okay, so first I would say that my P sixth value must be equal to P sixth value plus P seventh value plus P eighth value, and then I would need to remove my 7th and 8th value. Okay, so I'll press Control Enter, and then I need to remove my 7th and 8th value. So I would say that my new P, I will say new P will be equal to my old P, and in bracket I need to remove two values 7, 8. Control Enter. This is how we remove values. You can check P now. You can see we have literally only 6 values now instead of 8. Okay, and you can check sum P. It should also be equal to 1. I have written capital P, it should be small p. And you can see we still have sum P is equals to 1 because we have added. See, this was our 6th value, this was our 7th, and this was our 8th value. I have added all of these values to get this. So this is going to be our new P with only 6 values, so that we do not have any expected value that is less than 5. Okay. See, here also I have done the same thing, but instead of making it into same one, I have used more complicated formulas, and I have realized we have easier formulas to do these kind of things. That is why I'm not doing it that way here. Okay. So now we have our probabilities. We would need now okay, so for chi-square test we require observed frequencies, and we require probabilities, expected probabilities. Okay, these are the two things that we require. Okay, so observed frequencies was this f, but we found out that we do not want this f. Okay, because we'll be combining our last two values. So the same thing that we did for probability, we'll do it for f as well. Okay, so I'll say my f of 6 must be equal to 6, 7 and 8, and then I'll remove the 7 and 8 value. So I'll copy this and do the same thing to f. Say f okay, done the same thing to f. Run this, check f. You can see now we have only 6 values, and our 6th value is nothing but addition of these 3 values. So now we have our observed frequencies, that would be f, and we have expected probabilities, that would be p. Okay. Now always whenever I'm using a test, I always check here. So chi-square test, this is our chi-square test. So for that we need x, that is going to be nothing but our observed frequency, and we'll not need y. Correct, true. I think correct is logical indication whether to apply continuity correction when computing the test statistic by 2 table. Okay, so it's okay, let it be continuity correction. Rather, you can skip continuity correction also, that does not matter, because in our written paper we do not use continuity correction, but here you can, does not matter. We'll not even specify that. So we'll specify this is going to be our frequency. Then we'll specify our p, that I have also named p. Okay, and then we do not have to specify anything. This b is nothing but how many times do you want the r to simulate this particular term. So b by default is 2000. It will simulate these values at 2000 times to find the expected, to find estimate that we did here, right? We did here to find estimate, we did it 1000 times. R will do it for this chi-square test as well, and check what it would be our estimated mean. It will do it 2000 times. Okay, so does not matter. So we'll say our test is chi-square dot test, and in bracket first we'll specify our f, then we'll specify p. So I'll say p is equals to p, and then all we have to specify is how many times do you want to simulate it. 2000 is good enough, so I'll say b is equals to 2000. Then the result of test, see here chi-squared test for given probabilities. So you can see chi-squared value is 1.34, degree of freedom is 5, and p value is 0.93. Okay. Any problem here? Goodness of fit test? It's interpretation. You just look at p value. The same way we interpret chi-square goodness of fit test in our normal paper. P value says that we have a very good relationship, so that means see 93%. So clearly our sample follows the distribution. So we were talking about sample following Poisson distribution, so that is what you would write in your conclusion. You'd say we do not have enough we have insufficient evidence to reject H0, therefore sample is following the distribution, Poisson distribution. Okay. Then we have linear regression. So linear model, our function is Lm, then we specify the formula. Then if we are using a particular data set, you will specify the data. We do not use subsets, so leave that. We do not use weights, so leave that. Na dot action is also not important to us, method is not important to us, anything other than that is not important to us. For us, literally formula and data, these are the only things that are important. Okay. What are the formulas? Formulas is the relationship that we have. So variables would be given to us. Let's say x and y are given, and they say we want a linear relationship between x and y, so you'll directly write y follows x. But if they have some kind of transformation in the model, let's say they are saying that y is equals to or y follows log of x, we want relationship between y and log of x. So rather than, you can definitely create another variable, let's say z, that is equals to log of x, and then find relationship between y and z. That also works. Or you can directly write y follows the function of x, log of x. You can have multilinear where you will specify y follows x1 plus x2 plus x3 till how many ever. You can have interaction directly, y follows x1 dot colon x2. This is nothing but our interaction model. Star model, directly put star. Then this is quadratic model where you have written x2 raised to 2. Okay, So you can write formula in different ways. Then you create a model, then you take summary of that model. This is important. And you can also have ANOVA of a model. ANOVA interpretation is pretty simple. I'll just show you later on. Okay. Then usually we want a confidence interval. This is how we find confidence interval of a model. Okay. Let's take a example. I think that's had linear relationship. Coefficient of variance, contingency table, linear regression model. Okay, so they are referring to autoclaims.csv as data. Usually data is given in CSV format. Okay, so to load that up, let's say now I have another question, so I'll open new, clear this. Okay, and first you will have to import data sets. It's import data set from text base. Then search that file, whichever file is given to you. I have stored mine. Let's stop. So auto claims. Okay. So always remember, whenever you are uploading a file, you have to check whether you have a header or not. Here we do have an header: state, class, gender, age, paid. So header should be yes. Okay, so if you have no, this is how it will look, and your header would be nothing but the first line or first row, and you will not be able to do any kind of analysis on it. So header yes. Okay. Most of the time you do not have to do anything else, but always see how does your data look. Okay, does it look properly or not? If the separator is something else, the data would not look proper. See, okay, because the data was separated by commas, but here separator is semicolon, that is why it cannot interpret this data properly. Okay, so I'll have to go for commas. Okay, CSV, the name is comma separated values, CSV. Okay, and they do not give you any other format, but you can have tab separated values, you can have semicolon separated values, you can have white space separated values, and that is why you have these four options. Okay, but we are talking about comma separated values. Then we'll press import, and now you have the whole data here. If you want to view it, see, it automatically opened it, or if you double click it, then it will open it. Okay. You do not have to write any code on how did you uploaded the data. Okay, that they understand. Then let's say they are asking us to take linear model. Fit a linear regression model to predict the paid claim amount based on the variable. Consider age as a numerical variable and all others as categorical variable. So here we have multilinear. This is not just linear regression. This is multilinear regression because we have more than one values. So we are taking into account age as a numerical variable and all other as categorical. That means they are all factors. Okay, so So age is a numerical and all others are nothing but factors, and paid is going to be nothing but our response. Okay. So to write your to write your model, you have two ways. To write the formula, you have two ways. One would be writing the variables. The name of the variables are here, you can see. Okay, so I'll say model. So I'll have paid is my response, everything is capital, so I'll write everything in capital. Everything is case sensitive, so you should be very careful about it. Follows, they said age is a numerical variable and it is automatically numerical, and all the others are factors. Okay, so they have already given you the all other values as factors. Okay, you can see here they are factors, but if they are still a numerical value and you want to take it as factors, you will say plus and write factor and then write your variable. So here state. Okay. So if state was numbers given, but we wanted to take it as factors, you will write factor and then state. Okay. Because this is already a factor, you can just write state as well, but I was just showing you how to do it. I'll just write class and I'll just write gender. Okay, this becomes nothing but my model. Now where does this variable come from? So variable come from a data that is called as auto claims. Okay. If I press Control Enter, there is an error in model paid this. Okay, I've written model, it's not model, LM. I wanted to write model is equal to LM. LM is our model. Yeah. Now we are getting our linear model, and here you can see list of 13 values. You can see coefficient, residual, effective, fitted values and whatever. If you want to see how your model is, you have to use summary. Summary model, and here you can see summary of your model. Now because I wanted to because I have increased the font size here, it is not including all of them together, so I will just do one thing. Now you can see this is how the values are given. Okay, so we have factors of these particular terms, and we have estimated values, we have standard error, we have t values, and we have p values. Okay. So this p value is always testing whether our variable or a factor that is given to us here are significant or not. The star also signifies the significant. So for that they are testing always whether the coefficient is 0 or not. So this is alpha, intercept means alpha, this is beta. For our variable, age is our variable, so for that we have beta here. Okay, so the estimated value of alpha is this much, estimated value of beta is this much. Standard errors are given to us, we almost never use standard errors. T values are given to us, this is the test statistic where they are testing whether they are 0 or not, and this gives us the probability. So most likely alpha is not 0 because we have very small probability, but most likely beta is 0 because we have 51% as our probability. This is how we take into account whether it is significant or not. So most likely age is not very significant. Okay. This factor state 2 is very significant, whereas state 3 is not significant enough, state 4 not, state 5 not, state 6 not, whatever, but we do not usually interpret them individually. Okay, either when we are comparing multiple data, see, in practical life, after seeing this, you may say that okay, rather than taking so many different states, I can combine a few states, making into regions. So maybe I'll combine state 2, 3, 4, then 6, 7, 10 and 12, whatever. So this way you can combine and make less number of states, because a lot of states are not very significant for this final price paid, whatever. So that is why in practical life you would see something like this, but we do not have we'll not be doing those kind of things in our examination, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, and you can see the class seems to be very significant, at least these two. Okay. And gender seems to be very significant, again 3 star. Okay. It says in the examination they asked us R squared value, so most likely this is the R squared value that we'll be taking into account. Provide your interpretation of the model by explaining R squared, adjusted R squared, and p-value of the model and p-value of each coefficients, identifying the significant variable in the prediction of paid claims. So significant variables we'll have to identify. I'll just show you the answer. Okay, question 3. Okay, so this is the same thing that we get. Okay, and that's it. Okay, they are not even writing anything. Okay, and you can see here mark 1 can be deducted if the output is not posted. So you have to copy the whole output and post it. You can skip writing hashtag because there will be so many hashtags, it becomes difficult. Just make sure that your what do we say, your formula and then your this post of your solution has a little bit of gap. And again, when you start with your formulas again you should have gap here. Okay, so that it looks significantly different. Now Sonu, you are asking how one can combine those states and what is the combination. See, that is not part of our course. That would be changing everything in the data. So you will have to check the data, and then literally wherever you have state 2, 3, 4, you will write it as category 1 and something like that. So maybe you will do that in Excel, maybe you will do that in R. It totally depends on how you want to do it. Okay, that is not part of our course. That is not how they would be asking us. Okay, so there are many ways of doing it. I would prefer Excel, somebody else would prefer R. It totally depends on which one you have done before. What I will do is in Excel, I will open this sheet, and then using conditional formatting, I will figure out how many I have state 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll make another column and write there, it is category 1, category 2, and so on, because it's easier for me to do it there. You can definitely do it in R. You can make a what do we say, you can make a function out of it, that whenever you see state 1, state 2, state 3, then make another column and write them as category 1, category 2, category 3, something like that, right? So you can make a function out of it. That may also work, because I have never done it in R. That is why it will take time for me to figure out what kind of functions we should use, right? So in practical terms, I would always use Excel because it would be easier for me to visualize things. Anyways, Okay. Then comment on the applicability of this linear regression model by plotting residual versus fitted values and QQ plot of the residuals. So first of all, residual versus fitted values. For that, we literally have residuals as a function. Residual, so I'll say res, or res is nothing but residuals, and in bracket we'll just write model. Okay. Then I want fitted, I'll say fitted, and then model. So now we have residual values and fitted values. Okay. Fitted values and residual values. All we have to do is plot it. Plot res, comma, fit. And here we have residual versus fitted values. Again, as I've said, that if you feel like the presentation is not very good, increase your graph, and then you can basically show it. Let's see how does their graph look. Okay. So they have made residual versus fitted like this. Actually, that should be always the case. Always take fitted as x value and residual as y value. Yep, I took the opposite, right? Always take fitted as x value and residuals as y value. That is the default way of showing it. So this is how our graph should look. Yeah. Okay. So this is basically, you can see positive, then negative, and then again positive values of residual. So most likely you can say that this is slightly curved data. Okay, I think that is what their conclusion might be. The plot is used to detect non-linear, unequal error variances and outliers. The residual do not bounce randomly around the line 0. This suggests that the assumption that the relationship is linear is not reasonable. We talked about this yesterday, that if we have positive, negative, then positive, or the other way around, negative, positive, and then negative in this residual versus fitted, then most likely it's a curved data. So that is why they are saying that the relationship is linear is not reasonable. The residual do not form a horizontal band around line 0. This suggests that the variance of the error terms are not equal and exhibit heteroscedasticity. I don't know what that word means, but I'm assuming that because you can see here we have low variance and here we have very high variance. Okay, it just says that all of the data is not showing equal variance. Okay, so then a few residuals stand out. These are very extreme values. These are the residual extreme values. Okay, from the basic random pattern of the residual, this suggests that there are outliers. So this suggests that there are outliers. This suggests that we do not have a linear relationship, and because variance less and more, so therefore variance throughout the data is not equal. Yes, heteroscedasticity is that the variance is not homogeneous. That means variance is not equal. That is what it means. Okay, I just don't know how to pronounce this. Okay, heteroscedasticity, I think it is just talking about elasticity or whatever. It does not matter. Okay, so that would be your conclusion from these kind of datas, this kind of graphs. and they are asking you to calculate the QQ plot. What's a QQ plot? It just tries to figure out whether it is similar to a normal distribution or not. So we have normal QQ norm plot, we have QQ plot. So a QQ plot is a scatter plot created by plotting two sets of quantiles against one another. If both sets of quantiles came from the same distribution, we should see points forming in a straight line. Okay, it should be straight line like this if both of the sets are following the similar kind of distribution. Okay, this is your formula. See, QQ norm model residuals, or we have calculated residuals separately, so you can directly write RES here. Okay, QQ norm just compares it to normal distribution. Okay, so if I use QQ norm here, QQ of residuals. See, this is the plot that we are talking about. If this was exactly straight line, then we would have said the residuals are following normal distribution, but clearly residuals are not following normal distribution. We have great dip here. Okay, so if it is dipping lower, most likely that means we have positively skewed name. Yeah, I think positively skewed. Let's see what they are saying. They did not say anything about the skewness, so leave it. It's good enough. We just have to say that if it was straight line, then it would have been following a normal distribution. Okay. Now see, there are so many formulas that can be calculated for a different reasons in R. Like here they have used kurtosis, they have used skewness. You just need to know how to find those particular values. Okay, so skewness, you know the formula of skewness. It is going to be nothing but average of x minus x bar whole cube divided by n. Okay, but this skewness is nothing but, I think, coefficient of skewness. Coefficient of skewness is going to be skewness divided by standard deviation cube. So they have made it into a function. They have made a skewness function, they have made a kurtosis function. Okay, so kurtosis is just raised to 4. Okay, and they have created a coefficient of kurtosis the same way we have coefficient of skewness here. Okay, or I think they would have specified that in the question. Your actuarial friends has suggested that you use a natural logarithm of paid claims instead of actual paid. Now see, natural logarithms you will have to use ln of paid instead of using paid. Is more closer to normal distribution than paid. You can check that. Verify the statement made by your friend comparing the skewness and kurtosis of the both paid claims as well as log paid. Write the appropriate custom function for to compute both of them. So they are asking us to make a custom function out of it, so that is why they have made a function. Okay, how to make a function? First you will write the word function. We'll say whatever this is our new function. Then in the bracket you will specify how many variables that function will take. In this case only one x, that is going to be a vector, and what to do inside that function with that vector. So they are saying, they have written now formula of coefficient of skewness. This is the formula for coefficient of kurtosis. So they have calculated skewness for paid, they have calculated skewness for log of paid, kurtosis of both of them. Okay. Skewness was positively skewed, paid was positively skewed beforehand. Now paid is almost you can say this what do we say, almost close to 0, so you can say it is near to normal distribution. Log is better at being normal distribution than without log. Kurtosis is the same thing. We had very high kurtosis before, now we have almost 0. For normal distribution this should also be 0. Skewness and kurtosis of log claims are more close to 0 compared to those of actual claims paid, thus indicating that the possibility of using linear regression with this dependent variable. Okay, so this would follow more of a normal distribution. They have made another distribution now, another model where they have used log of paid. Summary of model, this would be most likely a better fit because we assume that our conclusion, our response is normally distributed in linear model. Okay. So you can see R square value, if R square is better fit, R squared and adjusted R squared improved, you can check that with your previous ones, and hence the model is better fit compared to the initial model. For ANOVA, all you do is use ANOVA as your okay, let's say we want to calculate ANOVA. ANOVA of model. I think not double N, single N. Now for ANOVA, they give you a table of ANOVA. Okay. This is how table of ANOVA works. Okay. So we have degree of freedom, we have sum of squared, we have mean sum squared, and we have F value, and we have P values. Okay, now let's take a break, and then we'll come back in, let's say we'll come back in 15 minutes, not 15 minutes, let's say 13 minutes. So we'll come back at 10:20. Right now it's 10:07. We'll come back at 10:20 and we'll talk further. Okay, we'll talk about ANOVA, we'll talk about principal component analysis as well. Okay, so let's make it back in 13 minutes. Okay.